If you're in APJ, good morning, happy Friday. If you're on the other side of the world, then I hope you're having a great Thursday evening. And welcoming everybody to make comments today and interact with us as we present some of the new products and releases from AWS this month. Please, Maya, if you can bring on my co-hosts and guests for today's show. We've got Tom Liu presenting with Paul Colmer on AIML and our regular Simon Lee joining us. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hi, hello, everyone.
Good day, everyone. How's it going?
Very good.
Excellent.
It's not as cold as it's been, right? It's starting to warm up a little bit over here.
It is. We're in Brisbane, aren't we? It's a little bit warmer in Brisbane.
Not the same in Melbourne. I'm still freezing my butt off.
Yeah,
I can see that icicle hanging from your nose.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah, we're all wearing
some
the
pretty
hoodies.
good stabilization, so you can't see my shivering. I'm shivering all the way.
Meanwhile, I've got family and friends over in Europe, and there's a heat wave going on right now. 40 degrees, getting up to 48. It's amazing. Yeah, that's 48 hot in Italy.
You'd be medium rare if you stayed up for a day.
You get a great suntan though, wouldn't you? 48. Wow, that would be.
I know.
You'd be like cooked, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I have a question. What did you buy recently in the Prime Day event?
Oh, good question.
Good question. I looked at a lot of stuff, and then to be honest, I got really distracted with going back to school with my kids. So I missed my chance.
Oh my god,
you missed the window.
Yeah, I recently started trying photography, so I bought a new lens. It's pretty good. Wow. It's actually a lot cheaper than buying from some of the specialty stores. About 30% cheaper, so pretty good.
Nice.
I'm just trying to think. I bought anything special on Prime Day. I think the last thing I bought was some nappies for little baby Bear. So Bear's my newborn. They're not very exciting, but hey, great prices on Amazon. Great prices.
Yeah,
that depends. Did you manage to get nappies with bear pictures on them? And please tell me you've got a onesie that's in the shape of a bear. I mean,
actually, we don't, but we have a onesie with lots of little bears on there. So yeah.
You've got to milk that for all it's worth.
Work.
No pun intended. You get that? Milk that. I like that. Anyway, we better get on with the show, won't we?
Let's get on with the show. All right, enough silliness. I'm going to hand over to Tom and Paul to take us through the latest in AIML for this month.
Awesome. Thank you. Great. Hi, everyone. Today's section, we're going to talk about our AIML services. It's not necessary to be new, but certainly it captured our eyes and it's a brilliant one to talk about. And we have our guest today, Paul Colmer. Paul, would you like, I know that you've been a guest for this one for multiple times, but for people may not necessarily know you already, would you mind to do a quick intro about yourself?
Thanks so much, Tom. I'd love to do a quick intro. Any excuse to talk about myself. So for those who don't know me, my name is Paul Colmer. I'm an AWS Senior Technical Trainer specializing in machine learning. So absolute honor and privilege to be here. And I need no excuse to talk about machine learning and generative AI. So here I am, ready to show you something different, show something a little bit different today.
Oh, that's cool. Super awesome. Yeah. Okay. Now we're going to move to next slide. And yeah, we're going to talk about today will be our SageMaker Jumpstart offering, and particularly on generative AI services also. Before I may ask Paul a couple of questions and do a bit of demo, I would like to share a bit of context. Like in last couple section or so, we briefly cover some demo on the AI generative AI services such as Code Whisperer, and talk about open source Falcon 40B instruct model deployment with SageMaker services or so. Now today we have another topic we want to talk about, and hopefully we can give some sort of insight for our audience about what's our offering and what you potentially may leverage. Yeah, Paul. So tell me a bit about this process about using SageMaker Jumpstart to do foundation models.
Yeah, so SageMaker Jumpstart is an incredibly versatile tool. So SageMaker is our line of end-to-end machine learning tools, and Jumpstart, as the word suggests, is a really quick way to sort of get started. And so what we're going to show today, there's a number of aspects to Jumpstart. I think we've seen presentations before on running particular models, but what we're going to do today is something a little bit different. We're going to look at the playground aspect of SageMaker Jumpstart.
I see.
Which is something a little bit different. So the great thing about the playground is it gives people that very quick feedback loop. It means we can experiment with different things without having to spin up models, and it's free. So that's what I'm going to show today. So super excited to get with that.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And I wonder, like, what other foundation models are you have you prepared for today?
I have a couple. So first of all, level set on foundations models for those that may not know. The great thing about foundation models, particularly in the generative AI space, is that they're pre-trained models. So normally in machine learning, you have to spend a lot of time, a lot of money gathering data, training your models up. And once they're trained, they're then ready for what we call inference, which is running some sort of query, if you like, against the model and gaining some sort of business benefit. Now, the great thing or idea behind foundation models is they're already pre-trained. So we've already got to the stage where they're already trained. We're ready to go. And so what we're going to do in the playground is we're going to take those pre-trained models, which is very, very large. When I say large, I mean 1 million parameters was large. I think we're up to billions now. So there are significant models which take a lot of time and money to train. And so we're able to leverage those in the playground. They're already trained, ready to go. And we're going to run some inferences. So we're going to run, for example, some words through there. We're going to do some paragraph generation. We're going to do some inquiry extraction, and then we're going to use some pictures as well. So the two models I want to demonstrate are the AI-21 Jurassic 2 Ultra, so a very, very large model, which is going to do some tech stuff for us, and we'll show you that in the demo. And then the other one that I really like is the Stability.ai model from called Stable Diffusion 2.1, and that's where we do some text to image. And so hopefully your viewers are a little bit hungry. We're going to show you some food. So
yeah, definitely. Awesome. Like also we can see that in this slide, the normal process or potentially customer can do with SageMaker Jumpstart across, like they can choose those open source or proprietary model and fine tune them and potentially deploy them also. And I understand that you're going to do a bit of different today with the Jumpstart foundation model playground. Why don't we switch to do the screen share from your end, and we kick off the demo?
That sounds like a great idea. So let's flick that. There we go. Look at that. On cue. Wonderful. The other thing to note as well, also, the reason I'm demoing these two models is your viewers may not be familiar, but there's a really cool service called Amazon Bedrock. And the great thing about Bedrock, it takes things a little bit further. So rather than spinning up your own models in somewhere like SageMaker, you can call the same models, the partners you saw there on the screen. You can call them with an API call and get a response back. Currently in preview, so we're not going to show that here, but maybe we'll show that in another edition. So I picked those models because they work in both Jumpstart and Bedrock. So if you do want to do API calls against them, you can.
Okay.
So
yeah, maybe we can park the Bedrock today, but I understand that the model you potentially talk about will be included in the future. So let's get across on SageMaker.
Let's do it. So first thing we're going to do is just type SageMaker into the, you can see at the top of the screen. I'm just going to talk people through really slowly. They may not have seen SageMaker before. There are some prerequisites with SageMaker. You have to create what's called a domain. So we've already created our domain here. And we're going to go into a little feature here called Jumpstart Foundation Model. So you can see on the left-hand side, it's got that little new button next to it. That's why I like demoing this one, because it's something relatively new.
Yeah, by the way, I wonder, like, are the model you demo today available across all regions?
Good question. Where am I today? So I'm in North Virginia. I'd have to have a look whether they're available across all the regions. I believe so, but I tend to do a lot of my demos in North Virginia, to be honest. So
okay, no problem. So probably for our audience today, if you are interested to try it out later, please try in the Northern Virginia region then.
Yeah, we can pop back and test the Sydney region and see what's available in there in a moment. If you like, we can circle back to that. But that's cool.
Awesome.
So lots of great models. I know your audience are filling with the Falcon 40 billion model that I think you did some demos in previous sessions. So let's just scroll down to the AI-21. So you can see there's a few here. Where are we? AI-21 Jurassic 2 Ultra is the one that I want to do. So All I'm simply
All
going
right.
to do is click on that view model. So we're just going to view that model now. 3 tabs here. We have the about model, the playground, and the agreement itself. So let's look at the about model. Conscious my camera's up there and my whiteboard and demo are here, so I'll try and flick between the two.
I know that at the behind you're working so busy on doing this. No problem. Thank you.
That's all right.
Would you mind to give us some idea like what this model potentially may benefit on customers' business use case?
Yeah, so we see a bit of a description here at the top, don't we? Playground is available. That's what I'll show you in a moment. It's what's called a large language model, and the types of use cases that you can use for, it's got it sort of outlined here. So question answering, summarization of text. And so in terms of real business use cases, for example, you might be public sector. You might be producing very complex policy documents. And wouldn't it be great to maybe summarize some of those for people to be able to more easily consume those policy documents? So a summarization type of feature could be one feature that maybe public sector might adopt.
Gotcha.
Another example might be producing content for blogs, for example. I do a lot of content myself, and I do use some of these tools to help me draft an initial blog post, and then I refine it myself. And then I can use the second model to add some pictures, and we'll show you that a bit later. There's some really good use cases there, hopefully.
Sounds good. And okay, where we're going to start with? By the way, I see a bit of cursor shaking on the screen. Is it because you're setting? Maybe
not sure. Shouldn't.
Okay.
My cursor is very
let's
still
move
at the moment. Let's keep moving. Yeah. So what we're going to do, we're going to click on the playground here. And what we're going to do, so we're now into the model details. We've got some sample models that we can use. So let's just go into extract queries from message. And what you'll see
what is that? Like, what is the example for?
Oh, this one. So what we're going to do, we're going to provide it some context. So we're going to do something called a few shot learning. So we're going to provide it some information so it learns a little bit more. So this is an example of how you can take a pre-trained model, add some context to it, and it will start to learn.
Okay, but before you jump into the example, I may ask a dumb question here.
Sure.
So I heard a concept about few shot or so, but it's kind of like prompt doing the prompt setting or so. Would you mind to share a bit like what is prompt engineering for large language like foundation models?
Yeah. So what you see here on the screen, you've got here on the left hand, so you see it says prompt. And prompt engineering is really a way of constructing your prompt to get the most out of the model, to get the business outcome that you're looking for. So in this example, we're going to provide some examples of inquiries effectively, some actions that might happen within the context of, say, an email trail. And then at the bottom, we're going to show how the model then extracts that very simply based on what it's learned. Effectively, we're almost like fine-tuning that model using, if you like, prompt engineering. So few shot prompt engineering is when we add some context. We'll show you some zero shot in the next model, which is when you don't add any context. You just simply put the question or the statement that you want to produce.
Yeah.
Cool. So what you see, we're not going to dwell on this too much. We've got some pre-trained, there's a message here. And if we scroll down, we've got another message here, but there's no inquiry. So he's showing that as an example of where there's nothing to pick up. We've got another example here of an email, and then here's the inquiry. And if we scroll down here, we've got another one. So you can see the examples of messages that we're including, emails that we're including, and lifting out the inquiry. So the model is learning from only 3 or 4 examples. And then down the bottom, what it's going to do is extract out of this particular example. So if we click on generate text, it's working away in the background. This is all free, by the way. You can see that was quite quick. And it's pulled out, who should Alice and Bob meet from your team? So it's taken that out of this last context. So that's a very simple way that we can extract some meaning out of some email data, for example.
Gotcha.
Very, very simple.
And I'm curious, at the right-hand side, there is a general tab, and potentially there is slider there. You can tune them. Would you mind share a little bit about them?
Absolutely. So let me click on the info button. That's absolutely right. So we've got a concept here called maximum length and 20. And what that refers to over here on the right, as you can see, is the maximum number of tokens. So tokens are the number of, in this case, it's a number of words that it will generate. So it's not going to generate any more than 20. We then also have something further down called temperature. And so the way I like to describe temperature is if you move it to the right-hand side, the answers or the generation becomes a bit more chaotic. If you move it to the left-hand side, the solutions become a bit more predictable. And so it's a way of tweaking the things. And then you've got top P as well, which is a little bit more technical, but you get the idea of the way you can tweak those.
When you say right-hand side a bit chaotic, are you referring to like random result or something?
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically,
awesome.
It's to do with stability. Temperature is almost like stability. So if we scroll down here, we've got a little description here. Control sampling randomness. So I like to talk about really stability of the generation.
Yeah. By the way, I may need to pause here. I see a question comes in for our audience. The question is, does it correlate multiple messages for this model? Like, for example, the prompting we are adding.
Yeah, so just like a human, what it's doing is actually learning. So each statement that we provide, it's sort of enhancing the learning. So it's already a pre-trained model, but what we're doing is we're just feeding it some, if you like, some fine-tuning information through the prompt engineering, which essentially gives us a slightly better answer. So you'll find that when you do few-shot learning, you can tailor the information that effectively it's being trained on, the additional information, and that will give a better result. Quite often I try zero-shot learning, is try the statement or question I'm looking for and see if it works. In this example, because it's extracting inquiries from a message, you get a better outcome when you do some a little bit of that few-shot learning. So it's not so much correlating those messages; it's really learning from them and then applying what it thinks is the best answer based on what it's learned.
Gotcha. So one more question for this example. I see that like at the very top of the prompt, there is some description about what you're after. Like if you find an inquiry, rewrite it in a simple way. Does it mean that you actually giving instruction to the model so that he can generate some sort of result for you, something like that?
Yeah. So what we could have done, we could just have fed in this inquiry here. Just this is effectively what we're asking it to summarize. But by providing specific examples, it's basically aligning its learning to that last example. So it's going to give us a better result. So the advantage of using a few-shot learning is we're improving the overall learning result.
Yeah.
Wonderful. I've got another one. This one's a little bit more interesting. This is really around paragraph generation. But what I'm going to do here, there's an example, as you see, prompt here, but it's a little bit complicated. So let's do something called zero-shot learning. Let's just ask it a very simple question. So let me just remove everything in there. Given we're talking about generative AI, should we just ask it, what is generative AI, and see what it comes up with? Again, we've got some different components here on the right-hand side. Our number of tokens has increased, so it's going to give us a longer output. Our temperature is the same, so the stability of the answers are going to be the same. And we haven't changed anything to do with the top P, which is around probability. So let's generate that text. Let's see what happens. That's not too bad. Generative AI is a subset of machine learning that focuses on creating models that can synthesize data such as text, images, or audio. Now, let's have a little look. So that's an example of zero-shot learning. Let's just tailor this a little bit. Let's add a little bit more to that prompt. So again, this is example of prompt engineering. We're just going to make this a little bit more verbose. Let's make it more specific and see what it generates. So what is generative AI and how can I use it in the public sector? And you can see here it's come up with, talks about technology. It can be used in the public sector to automate tasks such as document generation, report writing, data analysis. So let's see, should we really test it now? Let's just take that. So what I can do, I can take the output, I can pop it into the prompt. Again, this is another example of that few shot, but I'm using the prompt and I'm going to ask it something about what it's generating at the bottom. So it can also help to create new content. Can you be specific on the type of new content? I don't know what result this is going to give. This is based on what I see, and this response is different every time. So let's see what happens. It's got a little bit more specific.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, cautious of time. Like maybe we can move on to the next demo.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. So we've got a little bit more information here, but yeah, let's move on to the next demo. You can see how you can experiment with the prompts. So let's go back now to SageMaker. Let's pick another model.
Yeah.
This one's a bit more cool. This is Stable Diffusion. This is where we're going to generate some text to image.
I probably would like to engage our audience to share some prompt.
Oh, please, yes. What pictures would you like to see, everybody? Make it really descriptive. Here's the same thing. We've got the about model piece here, so that explains what Stable Diffusion does. Let's go into the playground and let's.
So maybe before we kick in, would you mind to explain like how our audience understand a bit about like text to image like foundation model?
Yep. Yeah. So very simply, with the Stable Diffusion model, you can type in a line of descriptive text describing what you'd like to see, and then essentially it will create an image based on that text. This is where prompt engineering is really important. Depending on the nuances and the keywords in that particular prompt, will generate something different each time.
Gotcha.
So let me.
Yeah, I just received a prompt from our lovely audience, and I pasted.
Try that.
But let's baby bear in nappy. Okay, I know you have a baby recently, but it's a human baby.
Let's see what happens. Let's see if these work. So straight away, while that's generating, we've got some options on the right-hand side that you can see. So width and height is the size of the picture. Number of inference steps is how many steps the models will take. Look, we've got something. We've got a bear for sure. Not sure it's a... Oh, it is a baby bear. There you go. That's not bad, is it?
No. We missed the nappy, but it's not bad. It's kind of a similar concept we do as a human being. To look
that's right. Let me show you an example.
Yeah, maybe you turn a bit to see whether we can get the nappy turn on the picture. Would you like to give it a go?
Let's give it a go. Baby bear wearing a nappy. Shall we try that?
Okay.
See if this works. I'll scroll down while we're waiting for that image to run. So you can see it's running just here. Yeah, there you go. Look at that. That's sort of like a nappy, isn't it?
Okay, yeah, lovely. Awesome. Okay, I also see another one. Do you want to try more?
Let's try. I'll tell you what, we'll come back to that. Let me just quickly show you something with a more complex prompt. Here's one I prepared earlier.
Look forward to that.
And then we'll go back to the... So this one, a little bit more complicated. So I'm describing what I want to see. A juicy chocolate donut sitting on top of a white plate. A portrait trending on Unsplash, sitting on a mocha-colored table, and some descriptive words, effectively. So they're not meant to make sense. They're meant to build sort of the help the model understand the type of context that we're looking for. So some of these words, hopefully, will produce something really quite magical. Let's see what happens. Takes a little bit longer, this one, because there we go. Look at that donut on a plate.
Looks yum.
It does.
I love it.
Should we try it? Let's try the. I like this double rainbow with the unicorn. We've got to try this, haven't we?
Okay, let's do that one.
Let's do that one. We could be here for hours, couldn't we?
Yeah.
Double rainbow with a unicorn. Let's try this.
Is it an unicorn? Yeah.
Here we go. We could add some descriptive words to that as well. We could put in the style of a cartoon character. Look, that's pretty good.
Wow.
That's impressive.
Let's come up. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, I'm not sure whether audience would like to share more, but maybe I would want to do a very quick wrap up here. Like, what do you see, like, from the prompt engineering perspective? Anything you want to share with our audience today? If later on they want to jump into playground to have a try.
Yeah, a couple of things I just wanted to show them. There are different examples in this model. So we've focused on sort of doing some custom prompt engineering, but there's some really good ones here. Let's just run through a human portrait, for example. So these examples give you an idea of the type of prompts that you can use and the type of words that you can use, which gives you an idea of how to drive the model. So it's a bit like a search engine. You sometimes got to know what to type in to drive the search engine. And so with the model, it's much the same in prompt engineering. You got to know what to drive. Look at that. That's a pretty good picture. That's one of the sample ones.
Great. So what you reckon is like our audience potentially can start with the existing sample, starting from there, and then they tailor a bit. and then they can customize their own, and then enjoy doing this kind of interaction with foundation models then.
Absolutely right. I think the key here is to experiment. So the idea of this playground, I'm just going to do one more. I just can't resist.
Okay.
The great thing about the playground is it gives you that immediate feedback loop. So you see how quickly we've generated a number of images. Imagine if you had to train your own model, deploy it, run the inference, and gather the data. It would probably take you 20 minutes, whereas here you can do this really, really quick. I'm just going to try a storm in a teacup. I tried this earlier this morning. I just want to see what it does.
Okay, a storm in the teacup. Wow.
That's not bad, is it?
It looks like coffee.
It does, isn't it?
Yeah.
We're probably running out of time here. Let me do one more thing, and then you can you can cut me off. Number of inference steps I've increased. It should be, shouldn't it? I've increased the number of inference steps there to hopefully get a better result. Let's see what happens.
Okay.
Did that work? We're still running it. Still running. Take a little bit longer.
Yeah, I see an audience ask a question. Yeah, that's Midjourney. That's the job as well. Yes, Midjourney, a service provider. They do the text to image services as well. But here, what we are trying to demo is a pre-trained foundation model. How you potentially use prompt engineering and interact with it, and get the result. Yeah,
that's absolutely right. Absolutely right. Midjourney is a consumer product, so I play with Midjourney quite a lot at home, and a lot of my friends and colleagues do. We generate lots of great images. But if you wanted to write a business application and you wanted to harness the power of generative AI, you could use these pre-trained models, using code, or you could use, for example, you could do API call using Bedrock. So yeah, a little bit of a difference. This is more of a the basis on which you could build your applications, whereas Midjourney is a fully fledged app. So yeah, but thanks for pointing out. I like the Midjourney app. It's a great app.
Yeah, great. I do see in a scenario that potentially you're running on cloud and using our services or so, it you got more governance and control on the data security setting or so, right?
That's really important, yeah. So you've got the identity and access management components, which secure who can access your particular services in AWS. But then also the important thing as well, any information you put into any of the models doesn't get generalized into the partner model. So in other words, your data stays safe. It stays within your tenancy. It doesn't go to any partners. And we don't use it at Amazon to improve the models in any way, shape, or form. So your data is absolutely kept private. So that's a really important point, Tom. I'm just going to share a case study as well with the customers there. That's Canva using SageMaker and using this text to image as part of their service. So go check out Canva. Awesome.
Okay, thanks for sharing the link. I think we are up to the time now. And any final words, or we're going to move on and have our next section then?
Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present. I hope everyone on the session has enjoyed what they've seen. Feel free to reach out to me on social media and ask me questions. But I think without further ado, we better keep things moving. Move on to our next set of guests.
And last thought from my end, I would recommend that for our audience today, if you get a chance to jump onto the foundation model playground to start, experience a bit, it's certainly a good start from there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Great call, Tom.
Yeah. Thank you. Back to you, Maya. Or Graham.
Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much, Paul. That was amazing. Really stunning dive into generative AI through a couple of our tools there. Really loved the playground feature. I mean, being able to just play, right? It's like a kid in the candy store. You write what you want and it just gives it to you.
Definitely. Making our life easier to access those large language model. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, Graham, I don't know how we're going to follow this.
We're going to have it. We've got a different structure to our section. It's probably going to be a little bit rapid fire as well. We've got a few to cover in 20 minutes. But before we move on, while everyone's still fresh in their mind, if you liked what you saw, if you liked the demos on generative AI, please leave a comment in chat. We'd love to know if this is the sort of content that you want to see from us. And if it is, we're going to double down on it. We'll give you some more. For now, let's jump into compute and containers. Maya, please, next slide. Simon, this is one that speaks to me from my past experience in high performance compute. I used to run multi-job pipelines processing big data to extract features from geospatial data sets. And this one's really important because if you're using AWS Batch, every time you log into the service, it'll spin up an EC2 instance, run the job, but then it'll spin it down again. And if you've got a long-term pipeline, you're going to have extra delays in that processing job.
Yeah, that was the thing that kind of puzzled me because I have no background in HPC, and it just feels like, oh, you're wasting resources by leaving a minimum number of vCPUs on. But it turns out that's not the case, right? For that particular use case.
That's right. It's a trade-off. So by having these vCPUs hang around in between steps within your pipeline, you reduce the delay that you're going to experience when you ramp up for the next part of the job, next part of the processing.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
well, on to the next one, maybe.
Exactly. Our next one is step functions. We've got versions and aliases now launching. Simon, this one's interesting. DevOps.
This is definitely interesting. Absolutely. So if you imagine you're using step functions before and you're in DevOps, you have like a blue-green deployment or canary type of deployment. Before you would have to create separate step functions, and so your rollback process will probably be moving to the other step functions. But with versioning, basically you can test out different steps, different state machines within your step functions. Plus, with aliases, basically, you can define, for example, this is a prod environment, this is a dev environment, and you can very easily, without changing code, without changing, anything within your state machines, kind of test out different things, roll back, seamlessly move to a new version. I think this is pretty good, and I think this is what a lot of our customers is using step functions for as well.
Yeah, I remember we were chatting before the stream and we got confused. What's the difference between a version and an alias? Are they like different types of the same thing? And then we pulled it out. The version refers to the step function itself, and then aliases are like pointers within the step function. So being able to switch traffic flow within your step function, and then instead of having to edit your code, you can then just change what the alias is pointing to. So more of an infrastructure as code style management for blue-green.
Absolutely, yeah. I think this will be super useful. I wonder if anyone in the audience is using step functions, and whether you think this is useful for you.
Yeah, tell us if this is something that you'd like to see more of. It's a great feature that I can see from being able to do blue-green deployments within your step function. But are you actually using it? Tell us what your use case is like.
All right. In the meantime, let's move on to the next one, and then maybe we can go back to the comments.
Sure. Our last one for compute is container signing now available on Elastic Kubernetes service.
Yes, this is really good. A lot of our customers have been asking for it. So basically, we use a service called AWS Signer, which is a managed signing service. And it really helps with management of all of your container images, because you have them signed, and in your registry, in your ECR, Elastic Container Registry, and it enables you to deploy only signed container images. So ensure that there's no drift, ensure they are confining to your security measures, for example. So pretty important.
Yeah, for sure. I have to admit, I went into a bit of a dive on this one because it's been a while since I certified, and I'm going to ask Paul some questions on certification later. But I completely missed about AWS Signer as a service. I hadn't heard about it before, and I checked it out. I remember when Code Artifact was launched, and that was a great way to avoid some security threats from upstream dependencies. People switching out open source code, and your organization wanting to have control over that upstream dependency. But AWS Signer is different, right? It's more about putting a code signature against your code artifacts, and it's available in a number of different services. So I had a look
Correct.
into the docs. It's available in Lambda. It's available in where are my notes? IoT, and
Yes.
it's also available in ECR.
Yep. So it was available in Lambda and I think 3TOS, 3TOS.
RTOS.
Yeah, 3RTOS for a while, but we've expanded this to ECR, which is probably really important because the container images it's a little more difficult and change more frequently than maybe some of your IoT OSs. So I think this would be definitely a great addition to Signer.
Great. We've got a comment in chat. What's signing service for container? I think we've handled that one, Sydney 5610. If you think we missed the mark, let us know. And SGX 2000 has put some comments in around pushing the signature to ECR but not validating the image.
Correct.
So some great comments in there.
Yep. Well, yeah. So the validation part, or it has to be managed by other procedures, not just in Signer. But Signer enables you to have signed images within your ECR.
Great. Thanks, Simon. Let's move on to our next section. And can we bring back Paul, please? And Tom.
I think, yeah.
Wrong Paul.
Hi, Tom.
Okay. I just like it randomly, but I'm happy to stay here if it is about certification also.
I'm back.
You're back.
We're all on now. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe we
Let's
just
all
have
say.
pause kind of enough.
Paul, I wanted to ask you. I got all of my certifications a few years ago, and just recently I realized that they'd all expired, which was really depressing because I had like 8. And now I've started again. But can you give me like a couple of tips and tricks, share them with our audience on the best way to get started with certification?
Yeah, that's a great question, Graham. So yeah, being a trainer, that's right up my alley. So the best thing to do is once you've decided to start on a certification, say you're going for the Solution Architect Associate, that tends to be a really good certification, baseline certification to start with, particularly if you're technical, is the ramp up guides. So probably the best thing, if I drop a little note into the chat, AWS ramp up guide is what you type in the search engine. Usually the first or second one that pops up, and then you simply scroll down and you'll look for Solution Architect as you scroll down.
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to start with.
Wonderful. Let me just pop that in the chat. There we go. Yeah, so just go into that link, scroll the way down, and you'll find that Solution Architect. If someone wants to pop the screen up, I can quickly show you on the screen. Let's have a little look. Where are we? Ramp up guides here.
Mark that for later.
We'll park it for later, no problem.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul.
Hey, Paul, I've got a question too. Both my associate and my professional certifications expired, regretfully. Do I still need to go through the whole process again? Do I have to get the associate before I can get the professional level?
So you don't have to, but we certainly recommend that you, if you wanted to get that baseline knowledge, we always recommend aiming for one or all 3 of the associate certifications. So there's the Solution Architect you talked about, the sys operation or the cloud sys operations. Cloud operations is our course, and then we have developer. We always recommend that people start with those 3. If you're non-technical, you've got the Certified Cloud Practitioner certification as well, and then build on that knowledge and go for your professional. I've just literally done my SA Pro as well, and it's not an easy exam, so it's not for the faint-hearted. So if you're new to AWS, definitely start with the Solution Architect Associate. But great question there, Simon. Thanks for asking. Wonderful.
May I ask a question, Paul? And if people want, if our audience or our user, they want to start like a particular portfolio, such as like data or networking or security, what's your recommendation for their pass on like trial the AWS certifications?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a range of different certifications. Again, I'll pop the link into the Twitch this here. You can see I'm signed in as Digital Coleman. That's me. So there's a little link there showing you to AWS certification. But we talked about those associate certs, and they're good to learn the foundation aspects of AWS. But if you want to specialize in something, then we have these lovely things called specialty certs. So in particular, I've got the machine learning specialty, but no surprise there. And you'll learn all about SageMaker. You'll learn about all the artificial intelligence and AI services. But if you're really brave, I think a few of you may have done these in the past. You've got advanced networking. That's a pretty tough one. But if you're into networking, that's a good one to do. You've got data and analytics. You've got database. You've got SAP now on AWS. So if you're background in SAP and you want to learn how to bring that to the cloud, SAP on AWS is a good place to start. So, and of course, we have security, which is probably one of the most important of our specialty certs, probably the most widespread amongst the training team. But again, people can find those certs on the link. Let me know if you've got any questions. Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, I see a question comes up from audience. And other ramp-up guys used to prepare you for the certs, or do you get a cert at the end?
Wouldn't it be great if you got the cert by doing the ramp-up guide? No, the ramp-up guide there is to prepare you. So there's a range of different courses in Skill Builder. So if you're not familiar with Skill Builder, log into Skill Builder. There's a whole range of courses. Many of them are free for customers. There's also sample questions in there. There's a whole heap of resources. There's Cloud Quest gamifications, which you can do as well to ramp up for your certs. Basically, each guide will have all the resources you need to pass your certification, including exam questions and so on. So no, unfortunately, you don't. However, the Cloud Quest I mentioned there, if you're not familiar with Cloud Quest, you can use that to improve your learning pathway towards a certification, and you will get a badge when you complete that. So there are some other digital badges you can get beyond cert. So don't forget those ones as well. And there's other ones available in Skill Builder when you certify with learning plans and things like that. So have some fun with that. I'll pop a little link in the chat to Skill Builder if you're not familiar with it.
Oh, good. Awesome. That's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
No worries.
Let's move on to our next release from Management and Governments. We're going to kick it off with CloudWatch now supporting dashboard variables. Simon.
Oh, yeah. I love this one. So if you've ever built a CloudWatch dashboard before, you've put in all the variables in there, you put in all the parameters in there, and you have to build that again for other resources, right? So what variable does is basically, you put in a variable in one of the parameters. For example, you want to look at EC2 instances, your fleet of EC2 instances in different regions, right? So you can just basically put in a variable for your region, and then you can basically see that on the same dashboard or on different dashboard, which is, I think, would be very useful. It will make it very quick for you to customize your dashboard and quickly find out a lot of different metrics within your resources.
So making these dashboards a lot more user friendly, right?
Oh, absolutely. And we have seen customers that talked about how cumbersome CloudWatch dashboard sometimes could be, especially if you're looking into a more granular type of resource. And this just makes it much easier for them to build dashboard, quickly look at some things and move on to another resource.
Nice. Let's move on to our next one. This one's a lot more enterprisey. AWS Control Tower integrating with Security Hub.
Yeah, this one is also something that we've seen customer ask for quite a bit. So Control Tower has its own set of controls, and then Security Hub obviously has a lot more controls on the security side. But the two were previously not connected, so you kind of have to navigate away from Control Tower to look at the Security Hub controls, and then suppress those findings or action on those findings. And what this does is with Control Tower landing zone 3.2, you can actually enable the Security Hub's control within Control Tower, and they will show up as I believe high and medium severity within Control Tower itself. So it makes it a lot easier to govern your environment.
Yeah, and the addition of Security Hub controls on Control Tower as well is really useful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. By the way, I'm curious. Does customer need to pay extra for this integration, and any insight for that?
So there's in itself, it's not extra. In Security Hub, if you enable different checks, at the back end, it would enable controls, enable services that might be, cost. It might be off cost. So, for example, like if you enable AWS config, there might be a cost associated with that.
Yeah, the great thing I think about this feature as well is that you've got now that integration with Control Tower Security Hub, and then if you wanted to, you can integrate it with System Manager and drive automation. So you take the items from Security Hub, create what's called ops items, operational items, and then you can either manually assign those to people or start to have runbooks with System Manager that start to then remediate those issues with Control Tower. So that's what's exciting for me. Is some of the automation aspects of this simple feature then flow on above to other services. That's really, really exciting.
Yep.
Awesome.
Nice one. Thanks, Paul. Our next one is cross account management.
Yeah, this is another good one. So Paul was just talking about System Manager and Ops item, which is exactly what this is, right? In Ops Center, you can now actually within your organization account or your delegated administrator account, create and manage operation issues across all of your accounts. So basically within System Managers, you can now basically look at all the different accounts and then just kind of look at if there are any ops items that really needed remediating.
Thanks, Simon. I'm going to push on to our last one now for management and government. We've got the AWS application migration service supporting multi-account migrations.
Yep. So, within the theme of multi-accounts, basically what this does is if you're migrating from on-premise, for example, and there are multiple applications that you want to migrate to. That's an example. It could be the same applications that you want to deploy in different environments, which are in different accounts. So you don't need to deploy AWS migration service, application migration service in multiple accounts. So you can deploy that in one account and then have that migrate to different accounts via a single designated account. So just simplifies the whole process of migration, and then just kind of making it easier to get that migration process started.
Yeah, it feels like something that's almost necessary now with customers using tens, sometimes even hundreds of accounts.
Hundreds, absolutely.
Having to do this one account at a time is rather painful.
Yeah, and it's if you ask any solutions architect, they would ask they'll tell you it's recommended practice to have multiple accounts. Even for the same applications, right, with different environments, and especially different applications, we do recommend having separate accounts. There are a lot of networking tools that we've had improvements on those tools in the past few years that enables you to just kind of communicate between your applications in different accounts. So this would I think this is just a natural step in the right direction. Making sure that the customer's process is simplified when they want to follow best practice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny, when I did my SA Pro a few weeks ago, there was definitely a focus on two things: hybrid connectivity, but also managing services across multiple accounts. So these types of integrations across multiple accounts, we're going to see across many more services, which help those, like you say, those customers, hundreds, sometimes even thousands of accounts, helps them manage the data within those accounts, which is really important. So thanks for sharing, Simon. That's awesome. No problem, Paul.
Yeah.
We've got two more new releases to go in our last section, databases. The first one we're going to talk about is RDS for SQL Server supporting self-managed Active Directory. I had a couple of customers so far with self-managed AD, and I'm sure this is going to be a welcome contribution for them.
Yeah.
The last one is Amazon Aurora MySQL has now zero ETL integration with Amazon Redshift, public preview only.
Yeah, so we've announced this last November during reInvent, and it's now in public preview. So what this does basically is when you have a Aurora MySQL database, I think it's MySQL 3, which is MySQL 8.0 compatible. What this does is when there's changes on your database, this enables you to very quickly integrate that data into Redshift. I'm interested in the technical aspect of it. I haven't played around with it myself, but I think it'll be really interesting because previously you would need like a staging environment, or you kind of export that table to S3 and then put that into Redshift. So it's more manual, and it's obviously not real time. It's more batch. But this is apparently when a transaction changes within the MySQL database on Aurora, it almost immediately appears in your Redshift cluster, and we do the ETL for you as well. Or the transaction without any ETL will be in Redshift is more accurate. So you can integrate multiple Aurora clusters within the same Redshift cluster if you want to do analytics on multiple databases. So I think that would be pretty interesting to see what our customers use this for.
Awesome. Again, I think it's another example, isn't it, of where we're going with some of our services. So we're trying to make those integrations much easier, and the zero ETL is one of those key sort of visionary components that we're trying to apply to all of the data components. So you haven't got to worry about, like you say, manually staging these things. You can just integrate directly. So I really like this. I really like this release. So we'll see more of these, I think, over the next 6 to 12 months. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but by the way, I have a question. Like, I understand that Redshift also support like federated query also. What's the difference between this zero ETL integration between those level of integration?
That's a really good question, Tom. I was asking that myself when I saw this, and so like things like what you call that spectrum, right? So you can actually get have data reside on, let's say, S3, and then have Redshift query that data set. But this is slightly different because it's almost like a copy. I think it is a copy from your database into your Redshift cluster itself. So you're not it's not like an external table on your Redshift cluster. Rather, it's just writing to your Redshift itself.
Gotcha.
So I guess that means that the I/O gets switched over to Redshift instead of your Aurora database.
Not
running
switch
analytics and machine learning.
You can say that. You can say that, but it's even if you're not running this particular analytics job on your Redshift, is writing to your Redshift. They're not called tables, like columns, right? So I think it'll be again, like under the hood, I need to do a little bit more research on how it actually works. But it's definitely not reading from the Aurora storage, right? So it's writing to the Redshift cluster itself.
Yeah,
cool. Thanks, Simon.
Yeah.
I think we'll wrap it up for today. There. Thank you so much, Simon, Paul, Tom. Your contributions today have been magical. Thanks to our audience. We've had some great interactions. I've been loving all of the comments and engagement from you today. And I hope to see you next month in What's New in AWS with Enterprise Support. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Talk to you next time.